Morla David, Adonai Roi Lo Efsar, especially Yarvik Saini, Almeimin Postin Aleni, Nafshi Shobei, Yan Kain Bimag Tzedek, Lamam Shmo, Gam Kielech, the Gates Almaves, Lo Yirarok, Yatoi Moti, Shiptakomi, Shantefa, Emina Kamuni, Tarok Bonai Shulkon Negatoroi, Shanta Vashemin Roshi, Kosiri Baya, October Chesed Yir Tupuni, Koime Hayai, Shapti Bebet Adonai, the Oret Yomin. Very appropriate to say the Eshet Chayo as well. Eshet Chayo mi yimtza v'rakok mipninim michra. Latach ba'alei bala v'shalal lo yaksar. Malatu tov v'lo ra kol yimei chayeha. Dar shatzemer u'pishtim batas b'tevetz kapeha. Haytak haniyot socher mibertak tavi lachma. Vatakam biyot laila v'tipen teret l'beita v'kolten aroteha. Damemasa devati kakeyu mipri chapea natakarem. Agrava od vatneha vatamitzro sekutro hoteha. Hama kitov sakra lo yichvev balayla neirav. Yadea shokava kishor v'chapea tam kupala. Kapha parsale ani v'yadea shokala evyon. Lo tiral veitam bishalek kho beitala bushtanim. Marvadim asatala, Sheish Yargaman the Busha, Nodaba Sharim Ba'ala, Bishitoim Zikne Aretz, Sadin Asatava Timfor Bakabor Natnalak Nani, Oz Vihadar Lebusha Batischak Yom HaKaron, Ia Patcha B'chakma, B'Torah Chesed Al Shona, Sophia Lichot Beita, V'lechem Atzlut Lo Tokel, Amu Banea Vayashrua, Ba'ala Vayahalala, Avot Banot Asukayo Yatalut Al Kubana, Shekarachain Behevela Yopi, Shayurat Adonai Titalal, Nulam Pri Adea, Bihalalua Vasharim Maseh. It's difficult for us to come together to say farewell in this world to an exceptionally special person, Dottie Franco. And as I've been thinking about her since yesterday, there are two phrases that keep on rolling around in my mind. One phrase is Mekayim Nefesh Achat Yisrael, person who sustains one soul among Israel. Ki'ilu Kiyam Olam Maleh. It's as if they've sustained a whole world. Sounds like a very nice phrase. We quote it a lot. It's so important. We believe every soul is so important. Every person is so important. Whatever anyone can do for any person is precious. Two basic questions about this. What does it even mean to be Mekayim Nefesh Yisrael? To sustain a soul among Israel? What do those words mean? How do you do it? What is it talking about? And secondly, Olam Maleh, it's as if a person sustained a whole world. Really? Really? One person is a whole world? It sounds very powerful. You believe in every person. But a whole world? What does that even mean? There are always questions that are floating around in the back of my mind. That Talmudic phrase. The second phrase I heard at a funeral a number of years ago. The funeral was Nathan Franco's funeral, the Zichrono Livracha. And one of the sons, I'm pretty sure it was Sammy, but if I'm mistaken, my apologies. One of the sons turned to Dottie Franco and said, "He brought Dad back." I have to confess, I don't remember many sentences from funerals. But that sentence has been such a powerful thing in my mind for years. I've known the Franco family for years, but not so many years. I'm sure there are people here who remember when Emunah Franco passed away. But to be honest with you, my guess is not many of us here do. And so I thought the Francos are special people, extraordinary people. Nat Franco's a special person. Dottie Franco's a special person. They have a special family. Beautiful. Kol HaMekayim Nefesh Achat Yisrael. What would have become of Nat Franco if he hadn't have married Dottie Franco? What would have become of him? Imagine for a second this community, not just this synagogue, but certainly this synagogue, but this community, if Nat Franco would have quietly receded into the corner and never been the presence that he was. You know something? When I think about Dottie and Nat Franco, and I think about what she did for him, and I don't exactly know how it happened, wasn't there. But I remind you, Kol Mekayem Nefesh Achat Yisrael, a person who sustains one person, it's a full world. And we know that what she did didn't end with what she did for her husband. We know she came in to a very challenging family situation and raised these boys who we look back and we say they're all wonderful individuals, and they certainly are, but I'm not sure how obvious it was at the time. What would our community look like if it wasn't for the Franco family? Think of how many institutions would be different if it wasn't for Nat Franco and his sons. Think of how many people wouldn't be helped if it wasn't for Nat Franco and his sons. Think of how many people, forget community for a second. Think of how many human beings in this world, lives were touched, are touched by Nat Franco and his Kenai Nahara 6 wonderful sons. Think about it. And this whole olam, this whole mini universe of kindness and goodness, it's fair to say it was all generated by one human being. How did she do all of that? I certainly don't know. But just thinking about the very special qualities that come to mind right away when you think about Dottie Franco: tremendous authenticity, good humor, when necessary, a lot of firmness, but overall, so much kindness. It's hard for me to count how many times in my line of work I find myself frequently in hospitals, particularly when people are near the end of life. Can't tell you how many times over these last number of years I would walk into a hospital and there was Dottie Franco, being a friend, being the greatest of friends. And that's just one small snippet. There are many people have very many special things to share. I just want two more things. This latest period in Dottie's life was a very difficult period. Surely it was difficult for her, and surely it was difficult for the many people who know and love her. And I had occasion sometimes over the past years to meet, I think we normally did it by Zoom, but to meet with all of the sons, discuss halachic matters regarding her care. And not everybody agreed. And as should be, when talking to the Francos, there was some very passionate feelings back and forth. But I just want to say something which to anyone who knows the family is obvious, but I want to say it. You couldn't figure out on this Zoom who was a stepchild and who was a biological child. And you couldn't figure out who had a better relationship with her and who had a not as good relationship with her. Family meetings, it's normally very clear. She raised 6 wonderful men who all had tremendous love for her. But if I may add one thing, and everyone's devotion to her is evident. Just by observing Dottie Franco, I've learned a lot about life, even from a bit of a distance, learned a lot about life. And I want to say, observing Dottie Franco, I've also learned a lot about life, about devotion, about caring, about being there every moment, and always honoring the tremendous legacy of his very special parents. If there's a nechama in all of this, I think it perhaps is that over these past months and years, it was probably hard to know what Dottie understood and what Dottie didn't understand, what she was aware of, what she wasn't aware of. I think now we have this beautiful neshama going on to another realm. Think of the constant nachat ruach. Think of the constant pleasure, merit that must be coming in and will come in from so many different sides and corners and institutions and people and children and grandchildren, and so much nachat bezrat Hashem from great grandchildren. It's remarkable to think that so much of this came thanks to one remarkable woman. Like that's Rabbi Daryl Babowski to share this.
Years ago, I had the opportunity to first meet Matt and Doc. And as we started out what was then a small show close to their house, I had the good fortune of getting to know them. And there are so many things that seem regular, but when you look at it, you realize it could be done one way or it could be done Dottie's way. And doing it Dottie's way in many of these cases was the right way. She liked using the term Bubby Dottie. And she used the term Bubby Dottie for even not her grandkids or not even a Franco. I was reminded of a pasuk in this week's parsha, the way we divide the parsha studying Achrei Ma'aseh and Kedoshim. The pasuk today is the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim. It says, Kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani. Hashem says, be holy. Well, of course we should be holy. We have all the, how does one be holy? By following the mitzvahs. What does one do? If it's mitzvahs, it already says it in the Torah. The explanation is Kedoshim tihiyu, and explanation is Kadesh atzmacha b'mutar. Sanctify yourself with things that are permissible to you. There are things that you don't have to do. And if you do them, that is a way that you are connecting to Hashem. You're being holy by doing something beyond what is normally needed, what is normally expected of you. So there could be a grandmother, and then there could be Bubby Dottie. There could be a congregant, and then there could be Dottie. As Rabbi Rosenbaum eloquently said, sometimes it feels good, sometimes it stings, but it's always coming from such a good place of caring, loving. There are people in this community that drop off their spouse to show all the time, but then there's the way Dottie. There is the way she, a lot of people go to the beach, and then there's the way Dottie goes. I never met Dottie at the beach, but I'm saying, they went with the whole truck. They said, I'll see you in a month. Well, who goes to the beach for a month? But Dottie and Matt, they went for a month because it was important. It was something that they lived. They lived it to its fullest. They observed to its fullest. to having a matriarch having a patriarch and Dottie, for this purpose, I'm gonna say a matriarch of the family, to have them, especially Dottie, often in shul and not have her kids and grandkids. I would know when there was a happy moment by a grandchild or a difficult moment by a grandchild, because Dottie would wear that on her sleeve. She would glow, she would be in pain. Not in pain and do nothing about it, be in pain and do everything she could do for a family member. And the way she would rejoice and celebrate milestones. I knew when I think a grandchild moved out of a trailer into a proper house in Israel. How do I know? Because she told me she lived it. She lived excitement. She lived good things. And she embraced this idea of Kedoshim Tiyu, Kadesh Atzmacha B'Mutar Lachem. Doing the things you have to do them. But going beyond and living in it in this deeper dimension is something that Dottie showed me and showed all of us how to live. And needless to say, the circumstances and the dynamics that sometimes presented themselves, she navigated them in Dottie's way. One more thing that I think of when I think of Dottie and Matt, as you mentioned earlier. There will be a time that people will come to Silver Spring, Maryland, and they did not know Dottie Franco. There are people that live now in Silver Spring, Maryland, and move to Silver Spring, Maryland because of the community that Silver Spring, Maryland is. They think it's just because Silver Spring is close to somewhere else and has good people. They don't know. What they don't know, and what our responsibility to share with others is, there were specific individuals that made Silver Spring, Maryland what it is. There are specific people that today are in Olam HaEmes, are in the world of truth, and they're not physically here. You're not able to point to them and say, it's because of this person that we have this in our community. It's because of this person that a certain standard was kept to. And Dottie is one of those people. Dottie is one of those people that Silver Spring, Maryland, as a whole, should be indebted to. It wasn't easy early on. It was easier when we moved here, and today when somebody moves here, they feel like it's a metropolis in Yiddishkeit. It wasn't that way. And to maintain and to strengthen the community, it took a few people that put themselves to it and saw it as their responsibility. And for that, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, because what we have here today, and when Yirtzeh Hashem will grow to even a greater community for Yiddishkeit in the United States, is thanks to Dvarus Masavran. Thank you. May your Neshama have Maria, and to him Shema Satsuri and so.
Okay, so I didn't have Rabbi Rosenbaum and Rabbi Bobovsky they didn't share the speech with me, so I apologize if I repeat a lot of things that they said. I never thought we'd be back here this quickly and be back up here having to do this all over again, and unfortunately we are. I see a lot of people are here, and thank you, and it's a credit to my mother. And I'm sure she has a lot of people that admire her and learn from her, and I'm sure she appreciates all the people here. She had touched so many people and impacted people's lives in so many ways, and a lot of people here. And I'm going to work a little backwards here because I want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone who helped take care of my mother during this difficult time, while at the same time putting up with me. I want to thank all the people who don't want to be mentioned by name because they're humble. So I'm just going to do it broadly. You know who you are, brothers, sisters-in-law, aunts, cousins, nieces, nephews, other relatives, friends, rabbis, doctors, nurses, caregivers, so many people, and so many more people. So many people stepped up, took my phone calls at any hour of the night. I would just have doctors and people that I could call on to, go over things and get their advice, and they were always there. And I want to apologize if I bothered you too much, by, calling you too much. Thank you again for your support. Also, thank you to everyone on the Tehillim chat, the Tehillim WhatsApp group that were on there all the time. My phone was dinging all the time with people as far as Israel. No matter how much time we have in thinking, even the last couple of years, there's no way we could ever prepare for a day like this. My mother was a true Eshet Chayil, a great, beautiful woman. And in Eshet Chayil, it says, her attire is strength and dignity, and she will rejoice on her last day. What does that mean? It means that on the day of her passing, the rejoicing is due to the fact that people will take note of all of her accomplishments. And they will know all of her allocates. But she was a person that now, of course, she didn't want any recognition at all. But now, everybody will see them now and remember them. What an understatement about accomplishments. There are no ways to adequately describe what she has done and meant to so many people who could go on forever. She was a humble giant, a tough lady with a very beautiful, sensitive side. Like so many instances in the Torah where things just happen. They may not have made sense at the time, but were later revealed. That was so much the case with my mother. All God's plan. We are all put out here to accomplish something, and we don't really know exactly what that is. We can try, but we don't know what exactly it is. But it became crystal clear with my mother, and she definitely took it on and worked hard. She just happened to move to Maryland. She just happened to live in a house behind my father's. May he rest in peace. She just happened to be at the right place at the right time when needed. An angel delivered by Hashem. One of her favorite sayings was about jumping into the frying pan. She always said, you just got out, you're going to jump back into the frying pan. Boy, she certainly jumped into the frying pan. First, new religion. And when I think about that each day, in Shomrai and in the Hallelujah, where it says, I always think about my mother every single day about that Hashem watches over the convert. She had a new husband, 5 kids. Along with my father as a team, they set out on their journey, ultimately building the legacy that continues today. And God willing, will just continue reaching greater heights. What a force raising us 6 boys, taking care of my father, the household, all while doing so much for others and helping to rebuild the community that exists today. The shuls, and as Rabbi Volosky said, Chabad, the schools, the mikvah, the Chaver Kedisha, doing taharas, and I want to say, not that we need to, the people, the team that did the tahara for my mother, one of them I know, I don't know all, I know them all, but I know one of them was she does taharas today because of my mother's influence. She did senior lunches, bloodmobile right here in the social home, visiting the sick and elderly, babysitting, taking care of adults. The list goes on and on. Always there to help and be on the scene, no matter what, without even being asked. She just knew what was needed, what to do. And she did it. And one example is, so yesterday, there was a lot of things going on yesterday. So a very dear and close friend of hers said something that really, this is one of the things she said, made this comment. There wasn't a sick person she didn't visit and take care of. She would take a newborn from its mother with a bottle so the mother could have a good night's sleep. Always stepping up to the plate. The amount of chesed she did is immeasurable. Never one to bite her tongue. She was a person on the outside as on the inside. She was a woman of truth and values. She would definitely not care what someone thought if she knew she was doing the right thing, because the right thing was the only thing. Always standing up for what was right. I can even remember some spirited debate between her and Rabbi Emunah, may he rest in peace, that they would get into it sometimes. But he would also value her RN experience amongst other things and call on her many times for her assistance. That is the kind of woman she was. She commanded respect and got respect because she always gave the proper respect. She cared about others before herself. And I know that my father would I remember my father complaining sometimes that, oh, where's dinner? Why is it late? Because he would say, you're always doing everything for other people. So that was definitely, how she was. She always wanted to do. Besides all the chesed, there was plenty of tzedakah she did as well. And there was one thing, once this situation happened, we all had to take over a lot of things. So I noticed something in her checkbook that just blew me away. So there were so many checks written, so many different organizations for like small amounts just split up. And I was like, really? Wow. So much effort and work went into that. And it just meant so much to her to do that. But my father and her, they definitely work hand in hand. After my father passed away, it was very difficult for her. She was used to taking care of others, especially my father. Then COVID. At least, thank God, my father didn't have to deal with that. It was a major void for her with the added isolation, COVID. It was very difficult. Then the stroke. Someone so talkative and alive was silenced in the blink of an eye. She was the one who took care of people, not the other way around. It has been a difficult journey to see her in that condition, but we just had to deal with it because that's what Hashem decreed, and who will we say anything, we have to accept it. She set the right examples for all of us. By now, I'm sure she would definitely be telling me to stop running my mouth. So here we go. And like she would say, let's get the show on the road. So here we go. Bezrat Hashem, she will finally be at peace and not suffering anymore. And hopefully, God willing, she will go straight to Gan Eden. As she would say, I paid my dues. Surely, Mom, you have. While we are hurting and don't want to say goodbye, it is only temporary. Your deeds have definitely spoken volumes. And again, hopefully you won't be suffering anymore and you'll be in a better place. There are those waiting for you upstairs. I'm sure waiting to see you, waiting to welcome you, and most of all, I'm sure waiting to thank you. Mom, you were an amazing mother. I can only hope that we did as good a job taking care of you as you did for us and everyone else. We will find out Bezrat Hashem one day at the right time when we are reunited.
Shirley.
Thinking about Dot, we can laugh and we can cry. We all know there's a treasure trove of smiling, knickknacks and Elvis and Redskins paraphernalia at 404. She was such a fan of Elvis that when Dot turned 60, we had an Elvis themed party to celebrate all things Dot. I would like to celebrate Dot today, also known as Bubby. I'll start with some memories we had of growing up a few blocks away from each other. Sukkot. I believe Dad and Dot had the longest and most narrow sukkah in the community, decorated to the nines. The Francos would gather and have the best time, even though Dot would absolutely not let anyone help. Our visits to her house. All visits at 404 included playing in the backyard on the swing set, playing with Hess trucks and Joey's cars, and getting a treat, whether it be fruit by the foot, fruit roll-ups, or mints. Other treats were the $5 Hanukkah gelt, $100 birthday cards, and gifts galore from Walmart. Best of all, were the diamond earrings when the baby girls were born, and the bar and bat mitzvah rings. My kids still wear them today. Friday night dinner. Without fail, Dot would give us hotties to keep our hands warm on what my kids thought was a long walk home. I would be the lucky one to use one of Bubby's shawls that smelled like her, and it wouldn't return it. The RVs. First, Dot and Dad traveled by RV, in which many grandchildren had the pleasure of being a part of. Then they settled off Route 90 in Ocean City for many years. We barbecued there since the kids were young, and we go to the beach and boardwalk regularly. And now for the wonderful woman that Dot was. My friend Holly Kozlowski said it perfectly, a pillar in the community who embraced her new identity, boys and community. Besides taking care of Nat's 5 boys, which was a task in itself, and then Joey, Dot had time to look out for the community at large. I will let the boys speak of the dedicated mother that she was throughout their childhood, as Joey already spoke about. The following is only some of what Dot was involved in over the many years living in Kent Mill. Taharas, preparing the deceased for burial, mikvah, the ritual bath, office work before Halim, visiting the sick, shopping, driving, errands, babysitting, helping the elderly, planning events after events, and the list goes on. 2 that I will always remember and cherish is when we did the night shift for quadruplets in the community and senior lunch at Young Israel together. It's no wonder Dot has been honored so many times in so many institutions. If only I can be half the caring, kind, and giving person she was, I would be happy. The last couple of years, Dot took it ill. I took much pleasure in visiting her as often as I could. We would, quote, have a conversation. I would catch her up on my life, show her pictures and videos while she listened intently. She would open her eyes wide, squeeze my hand, and show off her painted nails, as that was her new way of communicating. I felt and witnessed the joy that it brought to Dot. It was the least I can do for all she has done. I would be remiss if I did not mention Joey. Your dedication and commitment to Dot is unwavering and tremendous, especially in the last few years. Nobody could have done it better. Dot, I love you and already miss you.
Stephen. Again, the board was spoke. I had the salute, the merit to tell Dot following, which came really from my heart, and how I can only explain how I view my life, being raised by Dot through the lens of Torah, which was very important to her,
one of the things that she told me, I heard her say, is how to raise good kids is just speak Torah at the table. And I took that to heart, and I did that. And thank God for it. So a few months ago, not this trip when we came back, but the trip before, when I went once, when she was coherent, we all recognized that she understood. Of course, it declined over time. And knowing what the end result was going to be, you think about these things for a long time, what you can say. And I was able to tell her the following when she was able to understand. It was, I'm sure she understands. She was looking at me intensely. And it was a story about the nephew of Titus, Onkelos. He was a nephew, Roman emperor. He came from royalty, and it's a medrash talks about he was attracted to Judaism, started learning the Beit Midrash, and eventually converted, became a big scholar. And he was learning a passage in the study halls, and he came to a passage where it says, God loves converts. There's special reward for converts that will give the converts bread and clothing. And Onkelos jumped up to his Rebbe and said, "Don't like that. Bread, clothing." And his Rebbe, his teacher explained to him that the bread was the showbreads in the holy temple and part of the holy service. And the clothing was the holy clothes of the high priest in the service. And that is the Onkelos and milk. What she stands for, what she did here, you heard, touched everybody's life. This building would not be here without the effort and the assistance of Dot and the rest of the people of that generation. Years. I remember, I don't know, there was no plaque. You didn't want any recognition, but the skylight was dedicated by Dot and Dad. She wanted it open for weddings. I think it worked once. She raised us, and under the hashkafa of Rabbi Emunah, it was a journey for all of us, as you heard. Like Onkelos, she left a whole different life, and to take on all these things, meat, dairy, all these restrictions for what? So appreciative of the sacrifice that she made. Not only did she guide us, but she guided the whole community. And to me, it's important that that legacy continue. We all need to know where we came from and how we got here. When I walk up down the streets and I see the growth of the community. And I remember we used to walk to Shomrai in the Yeshiva before any of this. We can only look and thank God for everything she's done and take her legacy and continue it. Because her memory has prominent real estate here, just like Onkelos has prominent real estate with his translation of the Torah in Aramaic to this day on the side in each image as you open it up. In any event. So thank God, thank you for all of us, for everything you've done for all of us. And I ask you for Pilah and Shomrai, David. Grayson. It was us. Mother, I could hear her saying, pull it together. Dot, as everyone knew her, was an anchor in our family, a beacon of hope, which grounded us as our family was running adrift, motherless, with the passing of our mother, Emunah. A registered nurse, her mission was caring for the sick, which brought her to Maryland to work at Walter Reed Hospital. When she arrived, she lived with the Bolton's family right behind ours, a family whose child she cared for several years earlier in New York, and who became a second family to her. Perhaps it was this early display of compassion and loyalty that attracted our father to her. As young 3-year-old boys, my twin Danny and I would climb the back fence to visit Dot and ask her for rides in her baby blue convertible, her baby blue Corvair convertible. It was on one of those rides, she once told me, that we asked her to marry our daddy and be our mommy. Isn't it nice how things turn out when sometimes grown-ups listen to the case? Later in life, I asked her why on earth she married a guy with 5 children from ages 4 to 16. Her reply and her signature sarcasm was, I thought he was rich. The truth, as we all know, is that he fell in love with our dad because of his love and commitment to his family, and of course, his goodness, charm, and charisma. And in her caring fashion, she decided she was going to raise this family as her own. Our family grew with an entirely new set of family on the West Mucky side, and with the arrival of Joey, we gained another brother. What I learned about Dot through the years was that she was driven by her sense of family and her love of children. When Sammy and Simi had their first child, Nathan, the toils of her labor began their long road of reward. She loved her grandchildren and great-grandchildren more than life itself, and she relished as her role as Bubby, really super Bubby, in which she was incredibly blessed. I think she was probably the only one in our family that could keep track of all of those children and their birthdays. At the time of her passing was 18 grandchildren died, plus their spouses, and 38 grandchildren. It was this foundation of family which Dot set out on her mission of fostering a sense of belonging and community. Everywhere she went and with every life she touched. Wherever Dottie was, it felt like you belonged. She was a pioneer in the early formative days of the Jewish community, building its roots here in Silver Spring. Despite being a recent convert, she went all in and quickly became a leader with the Young Israel Sisterhood and devoted herself to about every Jewish community she can serve on throughout her life, including the Ever Kadisha and Chabad and countless others. As a child, I would watch as our dining table played host to endless community projects and planning events, including Red Cross blood drives and so many fundraising activities, so many. What was most impressionable to me about Dot was, despite her tough exterior, which she had to have in raising 6 boys, and her no-filter, ruffle the feathers and tell it like it is persona, is that she was, paradoxically, incredibly compassionate, thoughtful, and caring. This was evident through her actions, which often spoke louder than her words, as we all know those can be pretty loud at times. At her core, she had an unwavering drive to insert herself for the benefit of others, and this is part of her essence. My earliest memories of her compassion and care was being carted to the hospital every week to visit our Auntie Seal, may she rest in peace, week after week until her passing. And then there were so many others, so many visits to relatives and family friends in the hospital, to nursing homes, to Shiva homes, where she would take charge and be a force of stability and care, and a sense that if Dottie is around, everything will be okay. I remember a time when a dear family friend and neighbor, Lenore McMillan, was ill and didn't have much time left on earth. She was an avid theater goer and wanted to see this one last show before she died. Dot called me up and enlisted my help in getting Lenore her wheelchair, her oxygen machine, all the apparatus down to the National Theater. That evening, Lenore was radiant. Couldn't believe how a woman who had weeks left to live was so full of life that evening. At the end of the show, she leaned over to me and said, "Your mom granted a dying woman her last wish, and I'm grateful to have known her all of these years." I'm sure everyone in this room is also grateful to have known her all these years and has their own story to tell. Some might say Dot was opinionated. She was. Controlling, indeed. She was direct and to the point, and she wore her thoughts and her emotions on her sleeve. But that was also part of her disarming charm, attracting so many friends, and how she was able to be relied on for just about anything. When Dot was on a mission, you got out of her way, but knew the job would get done. Whenever you needed anything, you just called Dot, and she would drop everything. After Dot suffered a stroke, she faced daunting challenges. As a nurse growing up, she knew these challenges, and when she talked about end of life, she would say, "Just pull the plug," because if she couldn't live life to the fullest, she wouldn't want to live. But always up for a new challenge, she did live several more years. And during that time, she was able to celebrate new births, several birthdays, and the ability to give us the opportunity to give back to her and give so much more to our lives. No doubt, my kids will one day be as grateful that I carted them to all those visits with their buddy. I am to Dot. I'm burning those same values on me. Closing, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank, deeply thank, our brother Joey, who led many of the efforts in caring for Dot for the last few years. No doubt she appreciated your selfless efforts, as do we and the whole family.
Stand. This has been a difficult 2.5 years. However, I like to focus on the Dot we all know, love, and will remember. Energetic, vibrant, full of life. Dot was always there to provide comfort and support the family, friends, and community. Upon hearing of Dot's passing, one of her closest friends, Leah Israel, sent a beautiful note that I would like to share. Dot was the force behind the Franco family. She made them all what they are today, upstanding citizens, groomed, great husbands, and dedicated to doing good for the entire community. She had nothing but trouble with the boys, although Samuel was the most mature of all of them. They picked a brother in charge when their mother died young. As she worked on each one with compassion, love, and toughness, she tolerated no disrespect, dishonesty in dealings, whatever teenagers and young men dished out. Whatever they had become was due to Dot's being on their backs and teaching them how to behave and to always do the right thing. And that's how she took care of her family. Outside of family, there wasn't a sick person she didn't visit and take care of. Taking a newborn with its bottle for the night so the mother could go through the night with a good night's sleep. She was in charge of mikveh maintenance, led and performed the hours, cleaned up the side net after shul events when everyone else left to go home. Constantly volunteering for work in the shul office, shopping for those that needed help, running the show in all aspects of communal activities such as blood drives, membership meetings, babysitting, adult sitting, going to help with dialysis, wounds for those who require nursing care.
I can go on and on. Rabbi Amos, that's all respected, and even I dare say, adored her. This wasn't a person who had anything but good. There wasn't a person who had anything but good to speak about God. We will all miss her so much. This is the Dot I will always think about and remember. On behalf of our community, on behalf of our family, she said, I would like to express our gratitude to our brother Joey, who embodied the true meaning of treatment of the enemy. Joey, you dealt with the doctors, the medicines, the special food, the finances, the facility, and every other aspect of God's care, day in and day out, with so much love and devotion. As difficult as it was, you never wavered or complained. It was so heartwarming to see her light up and you were by her side. You shouldered so much responsibility, and we all thank you so much for doing this with such grace and selflessness. So proud of you. I ask and I feel like anything I might have done or not done in the past 55 years. I know that Luna will be with me. We thank you for finishing the task of raising us.
Bubby was a real force. She loved really hard. She was a nurse and a caretaker, and she was one of the best. She got me to stop biting my nails, waving her always perfectly manicured hands at my face. She was a baby lover and a babysitter. She was not my first choice babysitter because that was Lisa White's flat. But I do remember her being surprisingly calm when I got sent. I'm so happy she got to see my Vera and my Alan. I know how happy it made her when I put Lily Allen's really fat feet in her pretty hands on Thanksgiving. She always showed up. She was at every event for everyone, taking pictures, packing up the leftovers, and handing out the sector pieces. There was the RV, the big white sukkah. There was her spot here at Chill up on the balcony. Her light blue car and the way that it smelled. Her chelon, and of course the onboard fish. We recently found some pictures of her and Ditto when they were young and traveling. I had never seen pictures of Bubby at that age and looking that relaxed. She oozed confidence. The word I keep coming to is confidence. She moved with it, she led with it, she didn't take any BS from anyone. A true Franco. We haven't seen the Bubby we knew in a long time. I did have a few dreams about her though, and in all of them, it's someone's bar mitzvah and she's surrounded by a crowd of us and she's cracking up. Bubby's essence was warm, her hugs were tight, her kisses were loud. I want to remember her larger than life personality, her protectiveness over us, her birthday cards, and her pretty strict handwriting. Her love for the snow, Elvis, the Redskins, the beach, and her trailer. Her deep love for Jitto, his sons, her daughter-in-law, her grandchildren, and all the babies. For me, and I think for my cousin, this kind of feels like the end of an era. Like losing Bubby is the second part of losing Jitto. But how lucky we are that they left us with each other, and how regardless of where we move or how busy we get, nothing feels more natural than we all come together. Thank you.
Luna Susan.
Sorry for wow.
My Bubby was Bubby Dottie. Everyone who knew her knew that her name in itself is an adjective. But if I had to use proper Webster words to describe her, I'd say she was fierce, sincere, reliable, honest, dedicated, strong, and afraid to speak her truth. When only a woman as strong as Bubby could take on those Franco boys, she was up for the challenge. And not only did she succeed, she excelled. Besides raising them and raising them well, she added a sixth energetic boy to the mix. And as if that wasn't enough, she also pioneered their journey to a more intentional Judaism. She was an all or nothing kind of gal. She was converting to Judaism, so that meant life in the Franco house was about to change as well. Bobby showed up for so many people in so many ways. In fact, she met Judo because shortly after my grandma Luna passed away, she was working as a nurse living behind them. Her desire to help is what brought her to Maryland and into the hearts of the Franco men. The Bobby accepted wasn't a second thought. It was as simple as someone needed help, so of course she was going to do it. Whether that meant night shift babysitting for quads, visiting someone who was sick, or recovering from surgery, doing a ton of taharas, literally anything. If there was a need, she was there to deliver. Bobby, I wish we had more time with you. I closed my eyes and I could still see you squeezing my babies tight, buying them stuff from Walmart, the Xmas tree shop, taking RV trips, reading the obituaries to find out if you know anyone, cooking on board, and watching Judge Judy with Graham in the beach house. The last time we visited you, you were sleeping. When we left, my Sammy gave you a big, strong ooh-ah, as you call it. I love that even though it's been a few years, you knew you well enough to know that Bobby loves big, squeaky hugs. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you for taking such good care of us, and especially Jiddo, specifically at the end. I know you hated to be here without him, so I'm happy for you that you're there with him and Graham now. Bobby, I love to tell you that I got my colored eyes from you. Your reaction was always, nope, no you didn't. Don't say it again. I'll try to use these eyes that I got from you to tap into the fierceness that I learned from you. Love you, folks.
Please rise for the Kilmoli. I'm sorry, my mistake. We let Dario speak, please.
No, please, some of other values were still inside. Last night, we transitioned from the Liberty Kavan Israel Memorial Day to Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. We memorialized in order to celebrate. While in a much later sense, Bobby taught us that no pain, no gain will get us through the difficult time. I'm counting on you, Bobby, that it will get easier day by day. There are so many memories flooding my mind right now, but I'd like to focus on the opportunity I was given to spend the last month visiting Bobby Dottie. I'll never forget it. My name comes from my Bubbies. My parents took Dor from Dorothy and created a name that means live with God. Through our shared name, I hope to live by the qualities you have instilled in me over the years: respect, kindness, importance of family, and love.
Emoli Rachamim, Shochein, Bamrochim, Amsei Menuchon Akona, Kanfei Ashkina, Malos Kedoshim Utorim, Kizor, Akia Masirim, Esishmas, Borus Bat Abraham, Shalchal Yolama, Aburjan Apiskal, Limbiaras Koras Nishmata, Gan Eden, Temenuchasa, Kein Balarachim Yaski Rehab, Seisir Knapal Yolamim. Yitzror, Mitzvah Chayimis Nishmasa, Adonai Nachlasa, Sanuach B'Shalom Mishkaba, Minumar, Amen. Like to ask Rabbi Levi to come forward, do some of the Sfardim Minhagim, Akatat Mechila, Akarat Darim. Then after those, we'll have the Kaddish.
Dottie Franco, Mati Bakri, Yamut Makutevis, Mahpokane, Keramish, Ono Blamicon, the High, the whole Beit Israel, Bala, with Makari, Mami, I say with David, the last maybe Chabra for the bit, the Lam called the Katashi, attached to Pakatav, Nakamata, and Iran Drama,
This, you asked.
To conclude this portion of the service, burial will be at Mount Lebanon Cemetery. The way we'll do it is we'll escort the deceased out of the social hall here. We'll follow by foot until she's brought to the hearse. The hearse will go slowly up the hill. We can follow slowly by foot up the hill. The top of the hill, the hearse will stop, and those proceeding to the cemetery are welcome to line up their cars behind the hearse. Funeral will be observed for Tuesday. Shiva will be observed for Tuesday morning at the Franco home on Lamberton, 404 Lamberton Drive. Obviously, we extend so many wishes of condolence to the Franco family, but I also want to mention Dot's sisters, Marion and Joanne, are also with us. They should also get much consolation. If the grandsons would please come forward.